There have been numerous studies published which are interpreted to show that vitamins and other dietary supplements either have no beneficial effects or have harmful effects. I talked this morning at the hospital here, and one of the doctors in the audience questioned me about this and was very upset about the fact that so many of these vitamins are harmful. And an example used was vitamin E. You know, it was thought that vitamin E would help prevent heart attacks, might reduce cancer risks, but there have been many studies which have been interpreted to show that vitamin E may actually increase risk of heart attack or increase risk of cancer. But you know, when you look at these studies, there are many problems with the way that they were conducted and the way that they were interpreted. A first problem, and I hear very few people talk about this, is that nature produces vitamin E not as a single molecule. It's a family of molecules, in fact 8 separate molecules, 4 tocopherols and 4 tocotrienols. The research almost exclusively has looked at one molecule, alpha tocopherol. It has not looked at the whole natural complex of vitamin E molecules. And the assumption is that alpha tocopherol represents all the activity of vitamin E. We don't know that that assumption is valid. This is a common way that research operates, and it's using a principle called reductionism. You know, reductionism assumes that complex wholes can be equated with single elements, so that the part is equal to the whole. That's a very risky assumption. Reductionism makes research easier, it makes it simpler, it makes it easier to regulate drugs and natural products, but the more we try to eliminate natural complexity, the less relevant the studies are to what happens in the real world. So we don't know really whether these studies indicate lack of benefit or dangers of vitamin E. It's only about alpha tocopherol. In addition, there have been large meta-analyses where many studies have been combined to look at results on the health benefits of vitamin E, some of which have suggested that it's dangerous. But when you look at a big problem with them is that the population of patients used in these studies have been people who are very sick to begin with. And that's really not the population that we're interested in looking at. You know, we want to know what happens to people who are in good health, who take natural vitamin E, what effect this has on their health. The conclusions drawn from populations of very sick people may have no relevance. And a further problem today is that as the healthcare crisis has deepened and as the economics of healthcare are very constrained, medical journals are also caught up in this. So medical journals want to sell their copies of their journal. So it's in their interest to get publicity for studies. So this vitamin E study was given great prominence in leading medical journals, and the editors of the journals wrote editorials further exaggerating the suggested dangers of vitamin E, and therefore this wound up on the front page of the New York Times, and then gets reported around the world. So there was great distortion of the research results for reasons that really had nothing to do with the researcher's intention. You know, this was a phenomenon of what happens today in the competitive world of journal publishing. But this makes it very difficult for the general public, or even for doctors. I remember the day after this vitamin E story appeared on the front pages of the New York Times, one of the department heads at the University of Arizona stopped me in the hallway and said, well, we can't recommend vitamin E to patients anymore. So this is the casual conclusion drawn from reading something like this, which is really not based on a good interpretation of research.